What's up guys, it's Widgeon TV here. The deep backwoods of West Virginia are the origin place of many famous American folklore stories. One small town in particular endured a week of terror and curiosity at the hands of one of these stories. This small town in its heyday back in the early 1930s was a wealthy mining center, but today this town is best known as the home of one of these stories. This small town is Grafton, West Virginia, home of the Grafton Monster. Today we continue our look at the real-life history and folklore of Fallout 76's newly added creatures. We will also be speculating on what role the Grafton Monster will play in Fallout 76. If you haven't seen any of my other videos about Mothman or the Greenbrier Hotel, I highly recommend going and watching those videos now. First thing that we're going to do is go over the official reports of the Grafton Monster and some eyewitness accounts of it. Alright, let me set the scene for you. It was June 16th, 1963 in Grafton, West Virginia. The news was covering the very first deployment of US fighting forces in Vietnam. You could walk down to the local corner store and buy a pack of cigarettes for only 25 cents, and the song Wooly Bully by Sam the Sham and the Pharaohs was playing on the radio. Robert Cockerel, the star of our story, was a young local newspaper editor at the Grafton Sentinel. On this night, he was driving along Riverside Drive, which follows the Tygart River. As he rounded a wide curve and entered a straight section of road about a mile long, his headlights caught something that he knew immediately was out of place. It appeared to be a huge white obstruction on the right side of the road, standing in between the road and the riverbank. This is where Robert Cockerel witnessed the only confirmed first-hand sighting of the Grafton Monster. Here is what he said about what he saw. As soon as I saw it, I knew it wasn't just an object. It was a living beast, the likes of which I had never seen before. It stood 7 to 9 feet tall and was about 4 feet wide. It was stark white with slick, seal-like skin, or at least a covering that resembled seal-like. And it had no head, which by the way is actually a fairly similar description to the version that Bethesda created for us. The day after this event, he wrote a small story that was published on June 18th. Word of the sighting raced through Grafton and soon created a monster hunting sensation. More than 100 teens and adults armed with flashlights, mallets, crowbars, bats, and other crude weapons went to the river that night in hopes of tangling with the headless horror. More than 20 searchers said that they saw the monster, but all of these alleged sightings descriptions either had nothing in common with the first sighting, or were later found to be a case of mistaken identity of normal animals found in the West Virginia forest. Also, some stories were found to be just straight up lies. The next day, the newspaper tried to play down the incident, but town gossip played it up. And the following night, even more people turned out to hunt the monster, clogging the road of the original sighting, with bumper-to-bumper traffic and scores of vehicles pulled off to the side of the road. This night, no one reported a sighting as dramatic as the one had by Cockerel. However, after this night, the interest in the Grafton Monster waned. There was never again a spotting of the white-haired beast called the Grafton Monster. This ends the official story of the Grafton Monster, but in this story specifically, I think it's important to view it in a critical light alongside of its official one. Because the Grafton Monster is more a product of the times than it is a product of natural selection. In the 1960s, monsters, ghosts, and especially UFO stories were all the craze. So it's pretty obvious to me at least that Robert Cockerel fabricated the story about what he saw that night. Being a newspaper writer, he knew he could make a juicy story that would sell newspapers, and get him a nice pat on the back from his boss. Normally stories like this take multiple witnesses over a few weeks for people to get really excited about it. But because Grafton was such a small town with very few recreational activities, when this article came out on a Friday, it seemed like it was the biggest news in that town for a long time. And almost everybody that Friday night made it their Friday night activity to go monster hunting, blowing this story up even bigger than it already was. And because it was such a big story in that small town, we still hear about the Grafton Monster today in popular culture. Alright, so there's both sides of the story. Now it's time to talk about how the Grafton Monster will be implemented into Fallout 76. And this part of the video is going to be fairly brief because we basically have zero information given to us about what the Grafton Monster's purpose will be in Fallout 76. With Mothman, at least we had a brief description of what it's going to be doing in game, but this guy we have nothing. But there is one thing that we do have, and that's a lot of video. The Grafton Monster has been featured in nearly every Fallout 76 trailer, so between all of the trailers and the physical appearance of the creature in game, it's pretty clear to me that the Grafton Monster is going to be a base destroying tank, a creature to test your base defenses. When you go back and watch all of the trailers, you can pretty much see exactly this. Something that made me think of this is the tank from Left 4 Dead. If you have ever played that game, you will know that there is a lot of similarities between these two creatures, and I imagine they will serve a similar purpose. Maybe there will be a random event where a bunch of feral ghouls will attack your camp, and then after a wave of the feral ghouls, a Grafton Monster will show up to really test your defenses. I would love to see what you guys think down in the comments below. Anyway, that's all I have on the Grafton Monster. I hope everybody enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to like and subscribe. It really helps out my small channel. Also, consider following me on Twitter. It's the best place for me to keep in contact with you guys. But anyway, this has been Widgeon TV. Thanks for watching, guys.
1, 2, 3, 4.